I'm not the kind of guy who scares easy. 32 years old, live alone in a quiet 2-bedroom apartment in a town nobody's ever heard of unless they've broken down on the interstate and needed a mechanic or a gas station sandwich. I work as a mechanical drafter for a mid-sized construction firm. It's dull, sure, but stable. I keep a clean place. Pay my rent on time. Keep to myself. It started maybe 3 weeks ago, or at least that's when I first noticed the feeling. Like something had shifted in my apartment, while I wasn't looking. Nothing dramatic, no doors slamming, no creepy whispers. Just little things. A pair of socks I swore I dropped in the laundry basket ending up under the bed. A light I thought I'd turned off still burning when I came home from work. One time, I could have sworn my toothbrush was damp when I picked it up in the morning, and I know I hadn't used it yet. I chalked it up to stress. We'd been working on a big project, one of those all-hands-on-deck deals, and I'd pulled more late nights than usual. When you're staring at blueprints until your vision blurs and eating microwave dinners at 11 p.m., your brain starts playing tricks on you. That's what I told myself. But then the nights changed. At first, it was just trouble sleeping. I'd lie awake longer than usual, staring at the ceiling fan spinning in slow, lazy circles, listening to the refrigerator hum and the occasional creak of the old building settling. Totally normal apartment sounds. Background noise. Then I started waking up. Always between 2 and 3 a.m., every night without fail. Not to a sound. Not even from a dream. Just awake, like someone had shaken me by the shoulder, heart racing, ears wide open. And I started feeling it, that cold, prickling awareness. Like something was watching me. Not from the window. Not from the closet. From underneath the bed. I didn't tell anyone. Because what would I even say? Hey, I think my bed is haunted. I'd sound like a lunatic. And besides, I wasn't hearing voices or seeing shadows. Just waking up feeling weird. Probably anxiety, right? Nothing to worry about. That's what I told myself. But I started avoiding the dark corners of my room. I'd leave the bathroom light on with the door cracked, just enough to throw a soft glow across the floor. I even considered moving my bed away from the wall so I could check under it easier, some childish impulse I hadn't felt since I was 9. I didn't though. Because I was an adult. I had work. I had deadlines. And it was probably just in my head. That's what I thought, until the night I felt it. A hand? Brushing against my ankle. But that's for later. The first time it happened, I tried to convince myself I dreamed it. I woke up like I always did, 2:41 a.m. to be exact. That stupid digital clock glowing red in the dark like it was mocking me. I remember lying there, my body stiff under the blanket, staring up at the ceiling and wondering why the hell I couldn't just sleep through the night anymore. Then I felt it. It wasn't a grab, not even a real grip. Just the lightest brush against the inside of my right ankle, like someone was dragging a single finger across the skin. It wasn't cold, not at first. Just there. Unexpected. Deliberate. My whole body went rigid. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. I told myself it was the blanket. Maybe the fan was blowing the edge of it just right. Maybe I twitched in my sleep and the sheets slid across my skin. Some logical explanation. I forced myself to believe it. But deep down I knew. I knew how the edge of my sheets felt. I've slept in that same bed, with that same bedding, for almost 5 years. This wasn't fabric. It was a touch. I lay there for what felt like an hour, staring at the faint crack of light from the bathroom, heart pounding in my ears. I didn't look under the bed. I couldn't. Every time I even thought about lifting the sheet and peeking, my chest tightened like a vice. Eventually, the sun started bleeding through the blinds, and I forced myself out of bed like nothing had happened. I checked under the bed that morning, finally. Just to prove to myself how stupid it all was. Nothing. Of course. Just some dust, a couple socks, and the book I'd been too lazy to finish reading. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling. It followed me through the day like a shadow. I found myself glancing at my reflection in the office window, wondering if I looked tired or just paranoid. I flinched when someone brushed past me in the hallway. Every sensation felt heightened, raw. By the time I got home, I was a wreck. I didn't eat. I didn't turn on the TV. I just sat on the couch, staring at my bedroom door like something might walk through it. That night, I wedged a rolled-up towel between the mattress and the floor, on both sides. I figured if it was just a draft from the vent under the bed moving the blanket, that would stop it. I fell asleep telling myself I was being rational, that I was fixing the problem. But I still woke up. 2:38 a.m. And this time, the touch was firmer. Like fingers. Wrapping, ever so lightly, around my ankle. I didn't scream. I don't know why. Maybe part of me was still clinging to the idea that it wasn't real, that I was half asleep, dreaming with my eyes open. Or maybe I was just too scared. Frozen. Like my brain couldn't figure out if it should run or rationalize. I jerked my leg back under the covers so fast I scraped my heel on the bed frame. I heard myself whisper, "Nope." Like that was going to help, like the word could cancel out whatever had just happened. Then I waited. My breathing was shallow, sharp in the quiet. My ears strained for any sound, something shuffling beneath me, the groan of the mattress, anything that would make it real. Nothing. Just silence. Eventually, I reached for my phone and checked the time. 2:43 a.m. Same damn window, give or take a minute. I turned on the flashlight and pointed it at the floor, then leaned over the edge of the bed, careful not to let anything hang off. Empty. Again. I told myself to look under the bed. To get up, turn on the lights, and just do it. It was probably the towel slipping loose. Maybe my leg had brushed against it and startled me. I knew how fear could twist things. But I couldn't move. I lay there with the flashlight pointed at the floor like a kid guarding himself with a plastic sword, until the battery warning blinked and the screen dimmed. By then, the window was starting to glow with early light. I waited until it was bright enough to see the details in the carpet before I got up and checked underneath. Still empty. Still harmless. But the towels? Both of them were bunched near the foot of the bed, like they'd been tugged. That was the first time I noticed something else, too. Something I didn't want to admit, even to myself. There were faint marks on the carpet. Impressions. Long, narrow. Like finger tracks, dragging through the pile of the rug. I didn't sleep the next night. I couldn't. I drank 2 beers, made coffee at midnight, and sat in the living room with every light on. My bedroom door stayed shut. I didn't even look at it. When I passed out on the couch sometime near dawn, the last thought in my mind was a stupid, childish mantra. Don't let your feet hang off. Keep the blankets tight. Don't look under the bed. Rules. Like the ones I had when I was little. The ones I'd long since outgrown. And now here I was, 32 years old, making up rules for the dark again. Because the dark was starting to feel like it had its own rules. 2 days passed before I dared to sleep in my bed again. The couch wasn't much better. I still woke up around the same time, nerves buzzing, skin clammy. But at least the space beneath it was solid, closed off. No gaps. No room for anything to hide. I kept telling myself I was spiraling. That my mind was looking for patterns where there weren't any. Lack of sleep does that to you. It stretches time. Makes shadows feel heavier. Gives the silence a shape. But there was one thing I couldn't rationalize. The night I returned to the bedroom, I turned on every light. I lifted the mattress, checked under the bed, double-checked the locks on all the windows. I even left my phone recording on the nightstand, camera pointed toward the floor. Just in case. I told myself, if you catch something on video, you'll know it's real. And if there's nothing? Then you can stop losing your damn mind. I went to bed with socks on. Thick ones? No exposed skin. I wrapped myself up like a cocoon, layered the blankets, arms tucked tight. No stray limbs. No easy targets. Still woke up at 2:39 a.m. The room was dead quiet. No sounds from the street. No creaks. No hum from the fridge. Just the loud, open absence of sound. And then, barely audible, something shifted under the bed. It wasn't loud. Just a faint, dragging movement. Like cloth on carpet. Followed by a soft, careful tap. Once. Then again. Like fingers drumming against wood. My nightstand. I didn't move. I barely breathed. I just stared at the ceiling, body stiff, chest rising in shallow, panicked lifts. The tapping stopped. And then I saw it. A shadow moved across the far wall. Slow. Deliberate. Like something low to the ground was crawling past the crack of light under my bed and casting its shape against the wall. It wasn't mine. It didn't match anything in the room. It moved like it was dragging part of itself. Slower on one side. Uneven. Lopsided. And shadows don't do that. Not unless something real is making them. I didn't get up until the sun came through the blinds. When I checked the phone, the recording had stopped an hour in. The battery had drained from full to zero. The video caught nothing but stillness. Right up until it died. But right before it cut out, literally 3 seconds before, the audio picked something up. A whisper. Not a word. Just the sound of someone exhaling. Right next to the mic. After that night, I stopped pretending I was imagining it. Something was in my room. Something real. I just didn't understand it. And the worst part was how subtle it all stayed, just enough to make you doubt your own memory, just enough to pass as coincidence if you weren't paying attention. But I was. Now I was. That day at work, I must have looked like hell. My boss asked if I was sick, and I lied and said I'd caught something. Truth was, I hadn't eaten more than a granola bar in 36 hours. My stomach felt twisted up all the time, like it knew something before my brain did. That night, I didn't even try to sleep in the bedroom. I grabbed my blanket, set up camp on the living room floor, and shut the door to the hall. Left the lights on again. Double-checked the deadbolt twice. I even put my kitchen chair under the knob of the front door, like some cliché scene out of a paranoia thriller. Just in case. Around 1:50 a.m., I started dozing. Just a little. That heavy-eyed drift where you're not fully asleep, but not alert either. I don't know what pulled me back, whether it was sound or instinct, but I came to with a sudden snap, like I'd been dunked in cold water. The apartment was quiet. Nothing out of place. Except for the door to the hall. It was open. Just enough to see the darkness beyond it. I know I shut it. I remember the click. I remember pulling the throw blanket up to my chest and telling myself it was fine. That the door was shut. Now it wasn't. I stayed absolutely still. My phone was in arm's reach, but I didn't dare move for it. Something about the way that black rectangle of hallway looked, it felt like a challenge. Like if I looked away or moved too fast, something would cross the threshold. Then I heard it. A long, slow creak. Wood bending beneath weight. But not from the hallway. From the bedroom. Something stepped out of my room. I couldn't see it. Couldn't hear footsteps. Just that single creak, and then nothing. But I felt it. The air changed. Grew denser, heavier, like it was filled with water. The kind of pressure you feel in the back of your head before a storm. And I suddenly knew, with absolute certainty. It knew I was awake. I don't remember lying down. I don't remember pulling the blanket over my face. But that's where I stayed, for the rest of the night, flat on the floor, covered like a corpse, ears straining for movement. Nothing came through the door. But I never heard it go back either. The next morning, I didn't go to work. I called in, said I had a fever. My voice cracked when I said it, which probably helped sell the lie. But the truth was, I didn't trust myself to drive. I hadn't slept, hadn't eaten. My hands were shaking so bad I dropped my coffee mug trying to pour it. Shattered on the kitchen floor. I didn't clean it up right away. I just stood there, staring at the mess like it was someone else's problem. Like it had happened in another apartment, another life. Eventually, I went back into the bedroom. It was daylight. Bright even. That kind of cold, sterile brightness that should have made everything feel normal. Safe. It didn't. I approached the bed slowly. One step at a time. Like it might lash out if I moved too fast. The comforter was untouched. The pillows were still stacked the way I'd left them. But when I knelt beside the frame and looked underneath, it felt like the breath left my body. There were scratches. Deep, ragged lines carved into the floorboards beneath the bed. Not dozens, but enough. 5, maybe 6, all in a row, parallel, uneven in length. Like someone had dragged their fingers along the wood. Or claws. But no, not claws. I measured one with my hand. They matched fingers. Human ones. They weren't old either. The raw wood beneath the finish looked fresh, like whatever made them had done it recently. And in the center of the space under the bed, half hidden in shadow, something was sitting. A piece of cloth. I didn't want to reach for it. Every instinct told me to back away and burn the whole damn apartment down. But I did. It was a t-shirt. My t-shirt. One I hadn't seen in weeks. Faded black with the name of an old band I used to love. I thought I'd left it at the laundromat or maybe tossed it out. But there it was. Folded, not neatly, but deliberately, like someone had tucked it there. Like someone wanted me to find it. I dropped it. Scrambled back on my hands and heels until I hit the dresser. I stayed like that for a long time, breathing hard, staring at the bed like it might move. Eventually, I left the room and didn't go back for the rest of the day. But that night, I locked the bedroom door. I even pushed a chair in front of it. And I slept with my back against the living room wall, blanket around me, phone in my hand. I didn't wake up at 2:40. I woke up at 3:06. To the sound of the bedroom door creaking open. The sound of the door opening didn't register at first. I was half asleep, buried in warmth and exhaustion, and for a second, just a second, I let myself believe it was a dream. That distant, familiar creak. With straining against its hinges. But the sound of the chair scraping across the floor? That woke me up. Instantly. I sat bolt upright. The living room was dark, blacker than it should have been. I'd left the lamp on, I knew I had. But now, nothing. Just the blue glow from my phone screen, still clutched in my hand, battery down to 10%. And from the hallway, silence. But not the peaceful kind. It was the kind of silence that listens. I didn't move. Didn't even blink. I just watched that black rectangle of the hallway, heart thudding like a war drum in my ears. The chair I'd wedged under the door had moved at least a foot. I could see its faint silhouette against the floor. And the door, the one I had locked, deadbolt and all, was half open. I told myself to call someone. The cops. A neighbor. Anybody. But my fingers wouldn't work right. They hovered over the screen, twitching uselessly, like I couldn't decide what the emergency even was. Hi, yeah, I think something under my bed is getting out at night. Instead, I started taking notes. I don't know why. Some part of my brain wanted order. Wanted to believe I could still understand what was happening if I just tracked it logically. So I opened the Notes app, and I started typing. Always wakes me up between 2:30 to 3 a.m. Feels like it knows I'm awake. Scratches under the bed equals human-sized. Bedroom door opened without me hearing it unlock. T-shirt returned. Had been missing for weeks. Moved the chair. I kept going until my thumbs ached. Bullet points. Timelines. Details. Like I was logging an investigation. Like I was trying to prove to myself that I wasn't going insane. And as I scrolled back through the entries, something clicked. There was a pattern. The thing, whatever it was, it didn't just touch me. It tested me. A little more each night. First the brush on the ankle. Then the firmer grip. Then the whisper. The scratching. The shirt. The shadow. The door. It was escalating. And suddenly, a new thought hit me. One that made my stomach flip. If it could move the chair, if it could unlock the door. What was keeping it under the bed at all? What if it chose to stay there? The next day, I tried not to go home. I walked the streets after work with no direction, just aimless steps and heavy limbs, circling the block like some stray dog. I went into a diner I hadn't been to in years, ordered pancakes I barely touched, and sat there long enough that the waitress started giving me those polite, uncomfortable smiles. By the time I got back to the apartment, it was already dark. I stood at the door for a long time, key in my hand, trying to will myself to walk away. Book a hotel. Call a friend. Anyone. But I didn't. Because doing that meant saying it out loud. Admitting that something was in my apartment. Something I didn't understand. Instead, I unlocked the door and stepped inside like I always did. Like nothing was wrong. The air felt heavier than usual. Not in temperature, just weight. Like it was thicker somehow, pressing down on me from all sides. I left the lights on in every room, checked under the bed again, even though I already knew what I'd find. The scratches were still there. The shirt was gone. Gone. Not moved. Gone. And that was when I realized I wasn't in control anymore. I never had been. That night, I didn't try to sleep. I laid on the couch again, back against the wall, blanket up to my neck, phone on my chest. No more notes. No more video. Just listening. At 2:44 a.m., I heard something shift. Not from the bedroom. From directly beneath me. The couch. It was subtle, just a soft, low pressure against the cushions. Like something was moving underneath them, dragging itself slowly across the floorboards. I held my breath, muscles locked. I didn't want to look. I didn't want to confirm it. But then it breathed. Right below me. Not loud. Not ragged. Just a quiet, rhythmic pull of air through a throat that was too close. And it kept going. Long inhale. Pause. Shallow exhale. I could feel the vibration of it through the wood. Through the cushion. Through my spine. I stayed perfectly still. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. My eyes started to water from holding still so long. My phone slipped from my chest and hit the floor with a dull thud. The breathing stopped. Not gradually. Instantly. And in the silence that followed, I felt it again. That cold sensation, brushing the back of my leg. But this time, it was inside the blanket. I didn't scream. I think I wanted to, but the air just wouldn't move through my lungs. That touch, slow, sliding along the back of my calf, was so impossibly careful. Like it didn't want to startle me. Like it was waiting to see what I'd do. I bolted. Blanket off. On my feet before I even knew I was moving. I didn't look down. I didn't dare. I just ran to the bathroom and slammed the door shut behind me. Locked it. Braced my back against it, chest heaving. The apartment stayed quiet. No footsteps. No dragging. Just that awful, all-consuming silence. Like whatever was out there knew I was listening for it, and wanted me to. I stayed in the bathroom until sunrise. At some point I must have fallen asleep on the floor, because when I opened my eyes the light through the frosted glass was warm and gold. Normal. Safe. But I didn't feel safe. I stood up slowly, my whole body aching. Washed my face. Tried to meet my reflection in the mirror. I looked, haunted. Pale, hollow-eyed, stubble creeping in patches I'd usually never let it. I looked like a guy who hadn't slept right in a week. Because I hadn't. And then a stupid idea hit me. One of those desperate, half-rational things you come up with when you're backed into a corner. If I couldn't see it, maybe the mirror could. So that night, I set up an old floor mirror just outside the bedroom, angled so it reflected a slice of the bed from the hallway. It wouldn't show everything, but it'd catch movement. Shadows. Anything. I laid down on the couch again, lights off this time, door cracked just enough to keep the mirror in view. Phone in hand. Not recording. Just in case I needed the flashlight. 2:39 a.m. came and went. 2:45. 2:50. I started to think maybe it wasn't going to happen. Maybe I'd finally pushed it too far, gotten wise to its game. And then the hallway darkened. Not all at once. Just a shift. Like someone had stepped between the mirror and the light from the kitchen. I stared at the glass, heart hammering, breath tight in my chest. At first I thought I was seeing things. But no. There it was. Movement. Something long and low, gliding across the floor just beneath the edge of the bed. Its reflection warped and jittery in the mirror, like the glass couldn't decide how to display it. And then, hand? Just for a second. Pale, long-fingered, slipping out from under the bed. Crawling forward. Then pausing. I blinked. When I opened my eyes again, the hand was gone. But something else had taken its place. Something crouching. Watching me. From the mirror. I should have looked away. I should have turned off the lights, thrown the mirror out, called someone, done anything but keep staring. But I didn't. I sat frozen, locked into that cheap floor mirror like it was showing me something I was never meant to see. The thing crouching in the reflection didn't look like a monster. It looked like a man. But wrong. He was too still. Too low to the ground, knees bent at unnatural angles, spine hunched like he was folding himself smaller. His skin was pale, dead pale, like paper stretched over wood. But the worst part, by far, was his head. He didn't have a face. Just skin. Flat and blank, like someone had wrapped his skull in flesh and forgotten to carve the rest. And yet somehow, I knew he was staring at me. I felt it, his attention, like pressure building behind my eyes. Like if I blinked, I'd see him not just in the mirror, but right there in the room. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. Then, he raised his hand. Slow. Smooth. And pointed one long, shaking finger. At me. And the reflection smiled. Not on his face. He didn't have one. The mirror itself warped, bent at the corners like it was grinning with some invisible mouth. And then it rippled. Just slightly. Like heat on asphalt. And he began crawling toward it. Inside the mirror. Across the floor. Closer. My body finally caught up with my brain. I launched up from the couch, stumbling into the kitchen, grabbing anything, and I found a hammer. I don't even remember where I got it. Just that it was heavy, and in my hand, and the only thing between me and madness. I ran at the mirror and smashed it. Glass exploded across the hallway in a shriek. The moment it shattered, the pressure in the room vanished, gone like a power outage. The apartment seemed to exhale. All the tension bled out, just like that. I stared at the broken frame, breath ragged, blood dripping down my hand from the shards. There was nothing there. No man. No reflection. Just my empty hallway. Silent. Still. I never saw him again after that night. I got a hotel the next morning. Told the landlord I was breaking the lease. I didn't even pack. Left everything behind, clothes, furniture, photos, all of it. Started over in a new city, new job, new apartment. One with no vents under the bed. No deep shadows. No mirrors. But sometimes, late at night, I still wake up around 2:40. And I swear, I can feel something under me. Not touching. Just waiting.